Hello, how
Okay.
are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, thank you. We just had a big storm yesterday and the power was out for almost 24 hours and but we have solar, so we were doing great. So it was kind of fun. I was monitoring it on my phone.
Oh yeah.
It's a bummer when you lose power, but it's almost a bummer when it comes back on because I like those sort of, you know, suspense.
Oh yeah. And you're
Mhm.
based out of Seattle, right? So it's rainy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on Vashon Island. It's a little island. Well, not that little, but it's southwest of Seattle proper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been part of Presidents of the United States of America, Casper Baby Pants, among many others. So
Mhm.
my intro to presidents was I was watching Good Burger as a kid, and
Yeah.
band Opposable Thumb came on, and I was like,
Yeah.
I got to figure out what this is. So that's basically
Really?
where I first heard you guys.
Wow. You're the first person I've ever heard of who's seen that movie, heard that song, and done something about it.
Yeah,
So
it's
I guess that entire license was just for you.
yeah, it's a great song. It's one of my favorites.
Thank you.
So, I have a question. So, how old were you when you first started playing an instrument? Do you have any
I
idea?
think I was about 4 years old, maybe three even, when I started banging on a piano with a hammer. And I remember hearing the soundboard with all the strings kind of, reverberate whenever I hit the piano. Eventually, of course, I figured out the keys were a better option. But so from the time I was like 4 years old, I was really kind of into the piano, and I got piano lessons starting at 4. And it kind of felt a little serious. My whole childhood, I was kind of focused. I seem to remember in a way where people were talking about, well, maybe he's going to be a professional pianist or a concert pianist or something like that. It wasn't what I wanted, but I remember that sort of messaging trickling down from the grown-ups into me. So yeah, I was 4 years old, piano, and I remember as I grew up looking over at all the divots in the piano from when I used to bang it with a hammer
Oh yeah.
and thinking, yeah, there's my origins.
So, did you like pick up a guitar or something around that time too, or was it mainly just piano?
It was just piano because that's all I had. I didn't.
Oh
My
yeah.
dad had a guitar, but it was sort of dad's guitar, don't touch kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then eventually I did steal his guitar and took it up to my room and figured out chords. I was a lot later though. I think I was maybe 12 before I started trying to figure out chords. I figured out what sounded good, and then about a year later, I got a book that told you how to play guitar, and I was like, oh, I've been doing that one and that one and that one.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, so I kind of did it by ear first. But yeah, guitar, I guess, came along maybe when I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, same for me actually.
Hmm,
So,
really?
um, what was like your very first time like recording? Like, do you have an idea of when that was?
Yeah, first time recording. Well, when I was a really little kid, I had a really cheap little tape deck, and me and my friends used to make a thing called The Bear Show. It was sort of like a spoof on a late night, like Johnny Carson, like a Jimmy Fallon or whatever, like a talk show kind of format. But the host was a little bear, little stuffed bear. Of course, this is audio only, but we had a little bear. And he talked like this. He was like, "Hey, everybody, welcome to the Bear Show. Let's go." It was kind of like Mr. Bill. You don't remember this, but there was a thing on Saturday Night Live, almost just like it, but years later. Anyway, those are my first recordings, but that wasn't really music. That was like this weird kind of, parody of a late night variety show. I remember having two tape decks and bouncing sound back and forth, like record on one. As I'm playing it back, I add sound, record on two, back and forth. And those, I think that was after I started learning how to play guitar. So that must have been like 13 or 14. Yeah, when I started bouncing between two tape decks.
And I can imagine it's kind of cool to hear yourself record for the first time. Did that kind of
Yeah.
give you to like almost do more in music in a way?
Oh yeah, it was intoxicating. It was
Oh yeah.
incredible. I mean, I grew up listening to the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and I mean literally that's the only album I listened to from the time I was about 5 or 4 until 10. And so when eventually I convinced my mom to buy me a 4-track cassette thing.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
that was thrilling because then I could hear it didn't sound terrible and I could manipulate it and change the speed and all this stuff. And that's when I was like, oh, I can be the Beatles too, you know, as far as that record goes and the creative sort of use of the recording studio goes. So yeah, it was sound on sound with two tape decks, and then I think my mom bought me that 4-track. Oh man, that was like I was probably yeah, that was probably later. I was like 17 by the time I got that 4-track. 16, 17. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, did you have any other musical influences around that time besides the Beatles?
No.
Oh,
And I didn't even know other albums by the Beatles. And well,
oh,
until from
dang.
4 to 10, I only had that one record. From 10 on, I discovered the rest of the Beatles. And then I think it was maybe, let's see, it would have been 1977, 78. I was, yeah, I was like 14, maybe 79. I discovered punk rock, like the
Oh,
Sex
nice.
Pistols, the Clash, that classic kind of first wave of punk rock. And then I started to kind of, scoot around. Actually, so I went Beatles, and then I went like stadium rock like Kiss and Nazareth and Blue Oyster Cult and that kind of stuff. And then I went into like electronic stuff, and then I went into punk rock.
Nice.
It was a
Like,
whole. I was just eating it all, like I couldn't get enough of it. Whatever. I really historically just love great songs. I don't care what genre they're in.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Same way.
I was just kind of hunting for great songs all the while.
So, what was like your very first band that actually had members?
Okay, my very first band was so weird. So it was a friend of my brother's, Arnie Livingston, on bass. He was a very good bass player. He ended up being like a very accomplished, studio dude, bass player, sought after kind of avant-garde, funky bass player. This guy, Dennis Sway, I believe he was Hawaiian, playing guitar. And then me, I didn't really have a traditional instrument. I had this funny thing that Casio made. It was basically a calculator, but it had a keyboard on it
That's
called a
interesting.
VL tone. And so I had this little weird synthesizer with a speaker, and I had headphones, and I took one ear off the headphone cradle, put it on the speaker of the little calculator, tapped that for drums, sang into it as if it was a mic, and played the little keyboard all while lying on the ground. So it was very weird. It's like these two guys are standing up and I'm on the ground tapping a headphone part. And we were called, it's not PC now, we were called Spastic Action, as a play on the word satisfaction. And we covered the Rolling Stones song Satisfaction, except I can't get no spastic action.
That's
And then we had another one called, God, what was it called? Useless Information. It was like a anti-media punk rock thing. It's trying to be punk rock.
oh,
So that was
yeah.
my first band, and I actually have recordings of that
Oh, wow.
from way back. Yeah, I was a big fan of recording everything. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was my first band. I think at that point I was probably seven. Let's see. No, I was probably 16 because then
16.
I went on to form a duo with a friend of mine, Dale Pizer, and that was more traditional. I had actual keyboards and guitars and stuff. So
Oh, yeah. Did you have any sort of gigs with that band, or was it not like that?
no, not at all. I mean, we didn't even have mic stands. We didn't.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like I think I remember my brother because both of those guys were friends with my brother Tim, younger brother. And I think I remember him coming to me and because those guys were looking for people to form a band with, and he went to me and said, "Hey, Dennis and Arnie want to start a band. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that means, but here we go." So, yeah.
So, when did you kind of start experimenting with like how many strings you use, or did that just kind of come naturally without you even trying?
It kind of came naturally. It was a factor of having no money to. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
when the string thing started to be a thing. I was living in Boston. This was like late '80s, early '90s. I had a 6-string acoustic guitar that I had a pickup in, and I was using it as my main guitar. And I broke two strings, a low string and a high string, and so I went to a four. So I was using it as a 4-string. And then I met this guy, Mark Sandman,
Oh,
who
yeah.
is, yeah, he's a slide bass player, two-string bass player, and we became friends. I was over at his house. He had strung up a guitar as a two-string that you could actually finger instead of a slide because the strings were way off the neck for slide.
Oh, yeah.
He was experimenting with one he could finger, and it's actually this guitar right here, this red
Oh, nice.
guitar. I have it strung as a six string right now, but he had it as a two. And when I picked it up, I just went, "That's it. There's my home. That's where I belong." And so, yeah, it was kind of a slow progression from being poor to being enlightened.
So was it kind of like difficult to get used to at first, or did it kind of just like fit your playing?
It really fit. Yeah, it just
Oh
fit.
yeah.
It felt like, like I said, it felt like home. One thing I loved about it was I could, because I, again, love good songs, don't care what the genre is. So I would kind of, you know, hijack a little bit the vibe of some of my favorite songs and play them by other people and play them through that two-string filter, like through the limitations. And
Oh
it
yeah.
kind of was a way for me to like quote my references and, you know, play with, songs that I knew other people knew. But through that two-string limitation, it became fresh and
Oh
new
yeah.
sound and more me, like so it was
Mm.
a cool like limitation filter that allowed me to kind of wear my influences on my sleeve without anybody knowing.
Kind of was like your own thing in a way. Gave it your sound.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think Morphine and the Presidents were the only bands. Oh, there was a band called Disneyland After Dark.
Never
They
heard
had
of them.
yeah, they had a two-string bass.
Oh no.
Uh, but they're a little different. They had a two-string bass that you could finger. Mark had a two-string, he had a slide, and I had a two-string guitar. So they were a little different.
So was the Presidents the first band to use that, or did you like experiment with that in other bands?
There was a side project I'd done since the time I was 10. Oh God, I got it wrong. The first band I was in was when I was 10 and my friend Dave Thiele was 6. We were called David and the Overtones.
Wow.
It was piano and drums, and we only had one song. I guess that's the first. Spastic Action was the second,
Oh
technically.
yeah.
Sorry. I can't believe I screwed that up. Um, but Dave and I had a band called Creepy Stick for decades. We never wanted to record or make records or anything serious. We just did it for fun. And so that was a three-string situation. Um, yeah, we were really into heavy, drony, kind of like psychedelic rock from the UK, like this band Loop. And we just found that the open three-string thing lent itself to that kind of vibe. Yeah, so yeah, it was that was the first one before the presidents. The rest of them were all six-string traditional kind of
Okay.
things. Yeah.
Nice. So what was like the main bass guitar, I guess what you call it, that you used on like the like early Presidents recordings?
That's this one right here.
Oh, nice. Heck
This
yeah.
is the actual guitar that was on the debut. I bought it at a Oops, sorry, that's my
Oh,
phone.
you're
I
fine.
bought it at a pawn shop for 75 bucks, and it's definitely earned its keep.
Oh yeah.
So I still use it. With the music
Nice.
I'm making these days, I pull that thing off the wall every once in a while and plug it into a distortion box and let it rip.
Oh yeah. So have you done many modifications to it, or is it pretty original? Like,
It's pretty original, except I had to, in order to, you know, when you put two strings on a six-string guitar, there's issues with the amount of space in the bridge and in the nut where where the strings kind of sit, So you have to take a file and open those up and make them bigger. But you don't want to make them too big because then the string will pop out, or
yeah.
too deep because then you get fret buzz. So it's a real like trial and error, slow process, unless it's got an adjustable bridge. But even the nut, you can't have an adjustable nut really. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's just a slow kind of try it. Okay, then a little further. Okay, try it a little more, and then when you get it done. Mark and I, when we set up that guitar as a two string, he set it up, and then he didn't know what the strings were that were on it, but he had a pair of calipers, like where you can grab something and see how many millimeters it is. So we figured it out, and we're able to, then I could go out and get more strings, knowing what gauges I needed, because it was just trial and error at first.
So what gauges do you use?
At the time, these were 60 and 36.
Okay.
which seems like a big. The 60 could have been lighter, but I liked it kind of heavy. It would make this kind of growly. If you hit it too hard, it would be like bow kind of sound, which I kind of dug. So yeah, 60-36.
So when you started using like your two string and stuff when you played live, was it like how were people's reactions to that? Were they like surprised any way?
Yeah, I think so. I think because, that if you notice that guitar, it looks like a toy.
Yeah.
And our guitar player Dave had a guitar that equally looked like a toy. And we took all of Jason's cymbals away and gave him like a tiny, tiny hi-hat and a little wood block and a cowbell. So he was kind of playing this like tiny little drum set. So it looked like we were like a little band full of dorks trying to rock. So the two-string thing lent to that sort of underdog vibe, right? We're trying for something, but we're like this dorky little band being held together by rubber bands.
Oh yeah.
So I think it gave us, yeah, it sort of heightened our personality as being underdogs. So that was kind of a cool part of the story.
Oh yeah. So do you think that kind of like gained people's attention to like make you guys a more popular band in a sense? Or
Yeah, it was something to talk about. I mean, our name was something to talk about. The two-string thing, the fact that we're from Seattle, like post-grunge, first thing to come out post-grunge that was a success. Um, all those story points definitely, were easy for people to pick up on and use to promote the band and easy for interviewers to have something to talk about and all that stuff. So, yeah, it was all, I guess it was all, I mean, I didn't do the two-string thing to get attention. I just did it because it felt good, but it had a bonus of being something that people wanted to talk about.
oh yeah. And on those
Yeah.
early like on the early like demos of the presidents, like those, I'm talking about those early ones.
Yeah.
Did you use that exact guitar back there?
I think on some of them, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. On Kitty for sure. There's the Kitty is on there.
oh
Because
yeah.
because that was in Boston when the Kitty song was born, and I think I was playing that guitar at Mark's house.
Oh
We were
nice.
having a jam session, and a cat, his cat, or his roommate's cat, Chima, came into the room, and I was looking down at Chima, and Chima wanted, it was like, like, come on, pet me. And then every time you'd go to pet Chima, though, Chima would scratch you. So
Oh man.
that's where the song came from. But yeah, I was playing that one. Um, and then I was playing that four string a lot, but that four string ended up dying. I think it got smashed at one point by something or someone or me, or I can't remember. But yeah.
So on the early like President's demos, what kind of did you use a four track on those? Because I can't tell.
Yeah, I did. I used a four track. Actually, some of those demos, I didn't even own a four track at the time, and I had to run across the street to my friend Lori, who had a four track. So, like
Oh
the
yeah.
demo for Lump, we never demoed Peaches, but the demo for Lump and a few other songs were made on Lori's four track. Interesting side note, Lori was the cello player for Nirvana when they did
Wow.
the unplugged acoustic thing on MTV.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that was my neighbor, and it's her four track that I used to demo a bunch of President songs. So thank you, Lori. I know you're listening out there, so thanks, Lori.
So I was gonna ask this. So I heard like the early Bo Weevil demo. It kind of reminds me of Ween in a sense. I don't know if you ever have people saying that, but like it's I love it. It just
Yeah, the Pod was a huge album for me.
yes.
The first They Might Be Giants record and the Pod were the two moments where I was like, I'm not alone in the universe.
Yes.
Like there are other weird geeks out there, you know, just being free and crafty and great. They're great songs, but they were just like through this filter of absolute bizarreness. And in Ween's case, of course, huge amounts of pot smoke.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that Boll Weevil was definitely, that working that pitch knob on a four track was essential if you wanted to swim in the Ween waters,
Oh yeah.
which I did
So
on.
so on those early when you use the Tascam or was it a Tascam? I just said that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
the first one was a Ross, which is an off-brand weird tape deck. It sounded fantastic, though. I
Oh,
loved
nice.
that Ross. But then, yeah, I graduated to a Tascam. So,
would you say that using that kind of like forced you to be a little bit more creative in your like making stuff since you didn't have all of like the features?
Well, I had no idea what the features were, so
Oh yeah,
I didn't know I was missing anything. I thought this is what the Beatles used to make Sergeant Pepper's,
that's
four
true.
tracks. So
Yep.
I got really good at like bouncing down. I'd do guitar, bass, and a percussion, then bounce them all down to one, and then a lead vocal and a background vocal and a background. And I was constantly like consolidating. Um, so then eventually Mark Sandman got into the cassette 8-track, and he convinced me to buy one of those so we could swap master tapes and work together. And that was a revelation. That thing sounded fantastic. And then Sir Mix-a-Lot got me into digital recording with Pro
Oh
Tools,
yeah.
like that. So, and that's where I've been ever since. So I went 4/8 dig.
And is the 8 track you're talking about the Mark Hughes the one and he had like the Loft, I think is what it was called, his like
Yeah,
apartment?
I actually have a picture of him. I don't know if you can see it, but
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
kind of
awesome.
dark. It's in the background, but that's his 8-track back there.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
that's a picture I took at our last recording session. Um, Yeah, yeah, it's the one that was in his loft. I had a slightly different one. His had like a VU meter rack that plugged in. Mine was like a Mark II, or his was a Mark II and mine wasn't. I can't remember, but they were slightly. His was black, mine was gray, but
I mean, they can sound great because I've heard some of those recordings people use on those. They
yeah.
sound
The
good.
tape compression is fantastic and kind of built in, and the sweepable mid EQ was really great. You could choose which frequency and how loud it was going to be. That was a revelation because the 4 tracks only had low and high for tone. But to get a middle control like that was like, oh wow, that was intense.
So, like, what effects did you use for like your distortion and clean sound?
You mean in what era?
Oh,
Uh,
I would say like the debut album era for like
oh,
kick out
Dave.
jams and
Yeah,
that's
that was a rat. I had a rat pedal,
oh
and then
nice.
my amp had a built-in effect, like this warbly chorus effect, which you can hear on Body, I think, and like a couple other songs, or maybe it's on Dune Buggy. I'm not sure. My amp was actually a 115 quasi bass amp, but it was for accordions. It was by this company called what were they called? Shoot, I can't remember the name of the company now, but I went to some jazz club somewhere and I heard some upright bass player playing through this little amp, and I asked him what it was, and I went out and bought the bigger version. So that had a built-in effect that I used a lot. So, but it was a rat pedal and that effect, and then just clean. I really, after a few shows, having a pedal and being the lead singer and having people spill beer on my pedal and my pedal getting unplugged and the battery running out, and I was like, what, screw pedals. I'm gonna let Dave be in charge of all the tone color. I'm just gonna hold down the low end here with the bass, and so I got rid of everything. But I have a lot of great effects now. This thing is amazing. The Fuzz Stang.
Oh nice.
It has a super fuzzy sound, but it also has a gate. So you can go from super fuzz to absolute nothing.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. And then I've got this one. This one I've had since. This one I used in the Presidents too, actually. I forgot. It's a Boss Overdrive. And this is the oh, shut up, phone. I told you to shut up, man. This is the exact, hold on a second, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
My phone's got like 900 volumes, and if you don't turn them all down, they don't go out. Um, this is the actual pedal that I used in the Presidents and when I four-tracked and all kinds of stuff. See, it's not a surprise. And when I toured with Beck, this was the pedal I used. So I still use that guy. And then the classic Big Muff.
Big Mafia.
If you're going to be from Seattle, you got to have a Big Muff in the 90s.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was gonna ask, um, did you like what like interface not interface, but like what kind of mixer or whatever did you use when you recorded like the debut? Like do you know?
Oh yeah. What was that? There's a name for it, and it's kind of famous. Um, it was a mixing board that I believe used to be at Stax Studios in Muscle Shoals. It had a story. I don't quite remember the story, but it was like this old. It had these funny little circular red knobs that you moved up and down. It was very much like an old early '70s kind of vibey board. Um, I wish I could remember the make and model, but the legend of the board was though that somehow, and I don't remember how this happened, but the pitch control knob from Paul McCartney's 4-track that he used to make his first solo record somehow ended up getting loosened from that machine and put on this board as a decoration. It didn't actually do anything, but it was like it was almost like, touching the log before you go on stage at the Apollo or some sort of like ritual. You'd want to reach over and touch Paul McCartney's pitch knob
Oh
before
yeah.
you ran a mix or recorded a song or something. So sorry, I can't, I'm a little hazy on the details, but
Oh no.
it was a storied early 70s kind of board that had been around the block, and we felt privileged to use it. So yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
about
you're
as best as
fine.
I can do.
It's a long time ago, so I mean,
I know. Well, some people in our band, Dave Dieterer, our guitar player, remember everything. Like he would know exactly what that board was. So
oh yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any like how was it to like record the first album? Was it a quick process because you already knew how to play your songs well, or did it take a long time? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it kind of took a while. It took some trial and error, and especially mixing took a while. We ended up mixing it twice, or we ended up mixing 7 out of the 13 songs twice. It was kind of a mishmash. So we went in and we made a cassette at a place called Laundry Room Records with this guy Barrett Jones. After we did that cassette, he made the first Foo Fighters record with Dave Grohl and
Wow.
went on to work with Dave Grohl all over the place. So that studio's gone now, but so he had a deal like $350 for 13 hours or 12 hours in the studio. We pushed it to 13 and made an entire demo tape. Seven, or was it seven? I can't remember how many. I think somewhere between 4 and 7 of those. I think it was 4 of those tracks ended up on the debut. So that was part of making the debut. The other 8 tracks were recorded in Egg Studios, which we chose because that was where the Young Fresh Fellows made their records, and we were big fans of those guys. So we worked with Conrad Uno at Egg and did 8 more songs. And in retrospect, we always kind of think, oh, it was so easy and fun. We just hang a mic in a room and played what we did live. But no, I uncovered like a notebook from that period with all these like notes and like bring the bass up one key and pan this and all these like mix notes where we had to, and it wasn't like today with a computer where you can make a mix note and just open the session and everything's all the faders are. This is where we had to reset all the faders. So there was definitely revisions and questions and things to solve, and we our whole thing was to care deeply about the music without appearing to care at all.
Oh yeah.
So we kind of tell a story about how it was so easy, but it was actually kind of a lot of work. And then we ended up remixing the bulk of it when we signed with Columbia because we heard the Pop Llama version, which was Conrad's label, on a sound system at a show we were doing, like in between bands, they were playing records, and ours came up, the early mix, and it sounded terrible. So we're like, we got to remix. So we remixed and remastered the whole thing. So actually, it was a lot of work. It's like making the record twice, kind of,
Oh
or
man.
finishing the record twice.
It's a great record. It's very
Thank
loved.
you.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
so weird. It's such a weird record to have been successful, which I'm very proud of. It's like we did not make that record to be famous. We made it to entertain ourselves, and it
yeah.
became, yeah. So I'm very proud of the fact that we didn't like, surgically engineer something we thought would be, successful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any memories of playing at 2 Meter Sessions? Because I saw that clip of you guys playing there, and I don't know if you remember that, but Bullet Sounds or something. It was like
No, that doesn't ring a bell. 2 meter. When was it like a
I think
live show or a radio thing or?
yeah, it was a radio thing in a studio where yeah, I can't quite I just wasn't sure if you remember. Just I remember the quality of like the show was really good.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, Morphine also did something on that. It's like
Oh, was it in a recording studio? Were we
yes,
wearing headphones? Okay,
yes.
yeah, I think I do remember that. Yeah, and I think I've seen bits and pieces of that on the internet when I've kind of poked around in
Okay,
President's Land. Yeah, I don't specifically remember it, but I do think you're right. It sounded really good. It was,
it did. And like the camera quality of that for being back
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. Lots of kind of close-ups and singing and cutaways and all that. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What was that called? 2 meter sessions?
theater sessions, and like I think it was like Bullet Sound Studios or something like that. It was the place, but
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
really really cool.
there's a lot to forget. So
And I have a question. So how was it when you did Weird Al like how was Weird Al Yankovic covering or making a parody of Lump? How was that? How did like the band react to that when you when you heard it for the first time?
yeah, it was mixed. Well, we loved what he did with the song. I think it was a little mixed. I was very super into it. And Al and I are still really good friends to this day because he's just such a fantastic human, and we've guested in each other's shows, and he's produced a video for us, and just countless stuff. But we did it, and I think everyone in the band was happy with the song. There was a whole kerfuffle, though, when we went to present an award at the American Music Awards in '96. When we were on the Tonight Show, somebody had come with a sheet of paper saying, "Here's all the people presenting at the American Music Awards. Is there anybody you don't want to present with?" And
Oh,
I said no. I could present with anybody. Dave and Jason singled out Weird Al and said they didn't want to present with Weird Al. And I think I don't want to speak for them out of school, but I kind of feel like they were taking the band a little more seriously than I was, and didn't want to appear like to be a parody band of a parody band or something.
yeah.
Uh, so we get to the American Music Awards, and woman with a clipboard and a microphone and everything says, "Okay, you're presenting with Weird Al." And Dave and Jason left. They stormed out. You have to keep in mind, like, the experience of success is fantastic. There's all this validation, but it's also very disorienting, and it's a lot of compromise. Like doing a lot of things to stroke the egos of the people you need to be cozy up to keep your music flowing through the pipeline, like at radio stations and press and people who want to be important and be VIPs and all that stuff. And so you get to a point where it's kind of like you feel like you've been kind of used by the record label. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Dave and Jason. So they just left. I ended up staying. It was a great show. Little Richard performed and got a Lifetime Achievement Award, and he's like tears streaming, and I was right there, right up front for that. That was amazing. And anyway, I don't think Al ever knew that that happened, and then we met for real at the following Christmas at a radio show, K Rock Acoustic Christmas down in LA, and we've
Nice.
just been friends ever since. But yeah, interesting thing when he debuted that video. Well, he debuted that video for me, just the two of us in our tour bus or his tour bus. I can't remember. It was in a tour bus, and I was on a podcast all about Weird Al, and I was talking about the Gump video, and the question was, do you remember where you were when you first saw it? And I was like, no, I don't remember where I was. Where was I? Interesting. Okay. And then I was talking to Al not too long later, and I was like, I got this question about where was I when I watched the video, and I couldn't remember. And he's like, you don't remember? You were with me on a tour bus. It was the only time in his career he's ever debuted the video for the artist while he's standing in the room. And he was super like nervous. So he remembered it from being nervous. I completely forgot it, which is disturbing because it makes you wonder what else I've forgotten, right? I mean, Weird Al debuted a video in which he played me on a tour bus in LA, and I don't remember it.
Yeah.
So what the hell?
Your memory seemed to be pretty good because like what I've basically all I've asked you've had responses for. So
Yeah, no, no. I don't think I have a bad memory. It's just it's a testament to sensory overload. Like
yeah.
when so many things happen, you just can't remember all of them. So I need to write them all down is what I need to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that story. So yeah, Al's a dear friend and he's a fantastic human being.
Like, yeah, yeah, I think he's awesome too.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's about my time's about to run out. So, yeah, thank you so much.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
What's your favorite Dead Milkman song?
Um, Probably it's kind of a hard one, but Swordfish from Big Lizard in My Backyard.
Okay. I need to listen to that record again. I haven't listened to it in a long time. Didn't they
Yeah.
did they have a song, Bitchin' Camaro?
Yes, actually, I made a cover of that. I'm about to release it on my channel.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that song, and I wrote a song called Brand New Car, sort of aping that song.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I was my like take, which is what I love to do, which is like I did that with a Chris Isaac song for a song called Highway Forever for Presidents. I just like to kind of, take the DNA out and make a new one. Yeah, bitch and Camaro, bitch and Camaro, donuts on my lawn.
Yes.
Bitch and Camaro, Tony, Orlando, and
Totally
Dawn.
fun. That's great. Yep.
The other
So,
band I loved in that era was TV Personalities. Do you know them?
I mean, it sounds kind of familiar, but I would have
You
to
should
like,
check. You should check that out for
yeah,
sure.
I definitely will.
TV Personalities. They're from England. They're like a really weird kind of Cockney, like broke ass punk band, but not punk in the classic sense. It's this weird punk. And then what's the other band? Oh God, there's another. Oh, Camper Van Beethoven.
I've heard of that. I can't think of where I've heard it from. Camper Van Beatles.
They're a little more folky, but
Okay.
equally inventive and quirky. They, for some reason, they fall in the Dead Milkman universe for me.
Probably where I
So
heard them from.
yeah,
But
maybe. All right, cool.
yeah, thank you so much for this. This has been a pleasure. And yeah, I just want to show
Yeah,
you. Just recently got this pure frosting.
nice. I
Yeah.
like that. We're all really proud of that record, actually. It was kind of like sweeping up the leavings. And when we broke up in '98, but it ended up being one of our favorite records because it's kind of like sonically all over the map and it's kind of loosey-goosey and it's
Oh
got
yeah.
video Killed Radio Star and a
That's
couple and it also captured what we were like live on a couple tracks. I think isn't there a Lump live and a Back Porch live or maybe
I
I'm not even
remember it.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Back Porch Live. Yep. And Lump Live.
And
Yeah.
Lump live. Yeah, yeah. See, I remember that. I remember the track listing for Pure Frosting.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
thanks so much for
Pure
this.
Frosting was actually a name that we toyed around with at the beginning for the band. It
I think I've
was,
heard that before.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we decided to give it, and we had an instrumental called Pure Frosting. I can't remember how that went, but anyway, yeah, that's why we chose that name. It was like full circle. All right,
Well,
man.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, thanks.
Cool. Well, I'm glad I could do it for you. So, good luck with everything, and keep on listening to good music like Dead Milkman. Keep
Heck yeah.
exploring.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you
man.
so much.
All right, cool. Bye bye.
Bye.